Right, let's see. Live. All right, we fucking live, god damn it. So let me just get this link, drop it in my YouTube. I mean the Twitter. We gonna just run through the motherfucking court document. document. Nigga wow. Y'all hear any additional noise in the back or take that as a no? Instagram real quick. Need to get some like little intro type music playing and shit. Is it? I just seen the picture. Next.
Y'all see Spy 455 call?
Nah, but hey, heads up, we live. We on YouTube live.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
It's all good. It's all good. But I'm just letting y'all, know whatever. So I'm about to just get into this court document shit. But I'm glad you did say something. Let me slide this other little screen over so I keep an eye on these plays and shit. And then we're just gonna hop into this shit. All right, video, don't be fucking up. Okay, so fuck it. We just about to just go on in into this court document. So it's reading as Cassandra Ventura, the plaintiff versus Sean Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC, and Doe Corps 1 through 10. For those who didn't catch Diddy What You Doing parts 1 and 2, um, I believe it was in part 2 where I caught where there was a mention of Diddy having access to her medical records being sent to his email. That's a HIPAA violation off rip. So Shorty needs to add whatever doctor or hospital to this list of people to be, sued as well. So that's just a recap on that. So anyway, as the court document tells you right here in red, trigger warning. This document contains highly graphic information. And I ain't gonna say the rest, but it's involving, assault and things worse than that. So let's see the preliminary statement. Defendant Sean Combs is a rapper and record executive popularly known by his stage names of Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or Diddy. Mr. Combs came to fame in the early 1990s with his record label Bad Boy Records. Blah, blah, blah. They just kind of just giving, I guess, the potential jury or whoever the rundown of who he is and what his background is. So now, point number three in the opening or the preliminary statement, this is where we get to the meat and potatoes. It says the truth, however, is that Cassie, Miss Cassandra Ventura, was held down by Mr. Combs and endured over a decade of his violent behavior and disturbed demands. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those she spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking. Among other violent and unlawful acts, Mr. Combs R-worded Miss Ventura in her own home after she tried to leave him. Often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on her, resulting in bruises, bust lips, black eyes, and bleeding. Next point, blew up a man's car after he learned that he was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. I guess that's the reference to Kid Cudi, potential involvement or alleged involvement. Let's see, ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry executive whom he learned was nearby. Demanded that Miss Ventura carry his firearm in her purse just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous he is. Um, Introduced her to a lifestyle of excessive alcohol and substance abuse and required her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addictions. So, that's the little opening shit right there. Let's see. She was 19 years old when they met. He was 37, which is, it is what it is. He signed her to his record label, had her trapped in a crazy, record contract. What else? I ain't gonna run through all of these bullet points because they kind of touch on what we already know allegation wise as far as the the beatings and the abuse and things like that. Adding insult to injury, Mr. Combs used illegal substances and threats of violence to force Miss Ventura into repeated unwanted sexual encounters with male sex workers. That's, yeah, like I said, that's some crazy shit right there. That's some, like, we talked about that on that other joint we did. Are you a lame or are you a cuck? Like this nigga beating off, watching some other cats do some shit. That's some whole other crazy shit. But whatever float one boat. But let's see. So bullet point number 12 is talking about how she fully escaped, Mr. Combs, but the experience of that abuse will haunt her forever. She has required intensive medical and psychological care to recover from the trauma she lived through. And yeah, number 12, that's a kind of heavy one because shit, you always hear about, people going through the shit but people don't really probably absorb the fact when you go through some major shit, there is that trauma that come with that shit. You stuck with that shit for you might be like they said forever or until whatever months or years of treatment can help you fully, come to terms with that shit. So bullet point number 13 on here is talking about how she cannot continue to live in silence about what she endured. And, I guess she just said enough is enough. She wanted to just put air the nigga out. Now, with all of this shit going down, the timing is very interesting because I personally thought that Diddy would be in a similar situation, but because of the Keefy D shit and the Pac situation, that's where I thought he would end up in this court situation. But maybe this is just a prelude of what's to come. You know what I mean? They still might circle back on his ass once they see he weak from this situation. So bullet point number 14, which we also kind of touched on, I believe, in part two of the Diddy What You Don't Doing series. Uh, the reason why she finally, I guess, came forward was because, I guess, of some recent trafficking laws and some other type of law in New York State that would basically, um, there ain't no statute of limitations or whatever, and you could get, you could finally bring charges on whoever you need to bring charges to. So I think that was another factor that finally kind of, made Cassie finally just, put out what she needed to put out. So it looks like this trial is for the parties. Plaintiff Cassandra Ventura is a resident of the states of California and Connecticut. The defendant, Sean Combs, also resides in the state of California. Boom, boom. So it's just kind of running down everybody that's being sued. Epic Records, Bad Boy Records, Sean Combs himself as an individual, as well as the companies he represent or he owned, Doe Corporations, factual allegations. So for the factual allegations, let's see. Miss Ventura met Mr. Combs in late 2005, early 2006, after he heard her single playing in the club and expressed interest in signing her to his label. She was 19, he was 37. Within months, she signed a 10 album deal with Mr. Combs' label. I don't know. Y'all could hit niggas in the comments. I ain't never heard of no 10 album deal. And this is coming from a nigga who worked in the industry from 95 to 98, MCA, Universal. I ain't never heard of no nigga having a 10 album deal, which is in itself hella suspicious. Um, so the rest of this shit I'm not gonna run through. It's just kind of historical bullet points as far as the album, where it debuted on the charts, and yada yada. More, more stuff, just kind of step by step, talking about the various incidents from, him slowly taking over her life from a financial standpoint where she was fully dependent on him assaulting her on her 21st birthday in Las Vegas. Um, And we on page 11 of the 35-page document. You know what I mean? I'm trying to just do the abridged version for y'all. You know what I mean? Blah, 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 yada, yada. Mm, boy, if this shit right here, there's the feeling versus the fact, right? I feel that this shit is true, but the logical part of the brain until everything is confirmed, concrete. That's why I gotta say if. But if this shit is true, this nigga need his ass whooped badly. So now we at page 15 of the document where it's going into the sex trafficking aspect of him, basically arranging her to be with other men, engaging in these, sexual acts, or as it's referred to in the court document, freaking off, FO. So we're gonna just skim through all of that, and now we're at page 20 of this document where section 5 basically, where it's kind of documenting her, I guess, journey of her trying to escape, you know, his hold or whatever. So line 104, anytime she tried to create distance between her and Mr. Combs, he used his networks to find her and convince her to return to his abuse. And then this is where they mention, of course, the brief relationship with Kid Cudi. She laid low with Kid Cudi for a minute. Down here in line 112 of the document, it's saying basically in February 2012 during Paris Fashion Week, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car and that he wanted to ensure Kid Cudi was home with friends when it happened. Around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. Now that right there is crazy. Like, how is a nigga blowing up niggas' cars and not even nobody? There ain't no police reports on this shit. Not to say that Kid Cudi himself had to snitch or nothing like that. But I'm sure if you blowing up a car, that shit ain't no quiet shit. I'm sure the neighbors was like, yo, boop, boop, boop. Yo, some shit going on. There ain't no police reports around just the car being blown up. That shit is crazy. Or maybe there is, and then that shit will be introduced during the discovery portion of this trial as it further develops. Um, all of this shit. So then Shorty, I guess, got into some kind of brief action, little mini relationship with some actor, and Puffy basically called and threatened this actor, and then that nigga hold up and basically eased off her instead of saying fuck that nigga, he ain't nobody. Um, yeah, all of this shit is really crazy. And I know this nigga mentioned in line 124, James Cruz. I remember when he worked at was it not at BMG? It might be in BMG. think it was BMG. This was like 95 through 98. But anyway, James Cruz, president of Bad Boy Management, tracked Miss Ventura down and told her that her single would not be released if she did not answer Mr. Combs' phone calls. You know what I mean? Whole niggas who probably knew all this shit was going down and still acted on behalf of this nigga to, bring her back into the bullshit. Let's see. So basically, this whole rest of this section is just kind of detailing a bunch of hoe niggas and bitches who were in Puffy's employ that whenever she tried to bounce, these people were the fucking go betweens to lure her back in, basically. Um, mm, this next section is crazy. It says Mr. Combe, all words, Miss Ventura. So I ain't even gonna get too deep into that because all of that type of shit has been going down from what we reading this whole time. So there's no need to even really, um, you know, go into the details of that in this next section because the shit, from what it sounds like, been happening the whole time. All right, so now we at this next section. We at page 25 of the 35-page document. We're 22 minutes in this live. All right, so that's cool. Um, this section is called First Cause of Action. So, sex trafficking under 18, USC 1591. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation and all of the preceding paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. Plaintiff is a victim of sex trafficking. Um, Next line, let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, specifically, defendant Sean Combs perpetrated sex trafficking of Miss Ventura. Blah blah blah. The defendant corporations have financially and otherwise benefited as a result of these acts and omissions by keeping Mr. Combs, the volatile and explosive owner of the defendant corporation, satisfied. They benefited from facilitating his behavior to the extent it kept the mercurial music mogul happy and kept Miss Ventura obedient to Mr. Combs and the corporation's interests. Second cause of action, violation of the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking, New York Services Law, 483 BBC. And then it goes on to kind of the same thing as far as these allegations and re-allegations, re-alleges that everything that was mentioned up on the section above is happening here. So I kind of get it. So for each individual sex trafficking law, basically, she's just kind of reconfirming everything that happened to her. And I guess from the lawyer and the prosecutor standpoint, everything that you've been through falls under this law, it falls under this next law, and it falls under this other law. So when you hear about niggas having multiple charges, these will be the various charges that will be hit, that nigga will get hit with. You know what I'm saying? So fourth cause of action, battery, sexual battery under the New York law against defendant Sean Combs. Blah, 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 more of the same shit. Fifth cause, sexual assault pursuant to the California Sexual Abuse and Cover Up Accountability Act. It ain't looking good. We on page 31 to 35. Violation of the Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Act, NYC Admin Code 10 1101. The seventh cause of action: sexual harassment, gender discrimination, hostile work environment under New York State Human Rights Law, New York Executive Law 290. We're on page 33 of 35. The eighth cause of action: sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and hostile work environment under New York City Human Rights Law, Admin Code 8 101. And finally, in closing, this last section: prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff prays judgment be entered in favor against defendants and each of them as follows. One, for money judgment representing compensatory damages, including consequential damages, lost wages, earnings, and all other sums of money together with interest on these amounts according to proof. Two, for a money judgment of mental pain and anguish and severe emotional distress according to proof. Three, for punitive and exemplary damages according to proof. Four, for attorney's fees and costs. Five, for prejudgment and post judgment interest. Six, for such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper. Respectively submitted, Douglas H. Wigdor, Meredith A. Firetog, Michael J. Willamine. And there it is. That's the whole document. And we about to wrap this thing up. We'll be back as more, details and more stuff emerges. Till next time.